There are billions of people on the planet and many different personality types. Some people are introverted, some extroverted. Some are driven by logic and others by their feelings. In a world of such diversity, how do we learn to relate to those who are different? And how do we learn to understand and accept who we are?
People have a desire to know themselves. People want to know, who am I? How do I function? How do I tick?
These questions were at the heart of the pioneering work of Dr. Carl Gustav Jung, a Swiss psychologist who began working at the turn of the 20th century. Despite the conformity in dress, behavior, and attitude dictated by his time, Jung championed individuality, and he invited his patients to embrace the unique person each was meant to be.
Jung said, okay, that's what society tells you, that's what's expected of you, but what do you think? How do you feel?
He said that we all need to get to know ourselves better and know our motives better. And if we could really look at that more, that we would be able to be more accepting of differences.
At a time when Victorian society prided itself on being highly rational and civilized, Freud argued that people were really driven by repressed urges they weren't even aware of. Jung was one of the few who had embraced Freud's provocative ideas. The pair quickly became partners in promoting psychoanalysis around the world, and slowly they were gaining the respect of the mainstream medical community.
Jung was very open. He closed his eyes to nothing.
Jung spoke about Freud in a 1959 interview.
I liked him very much, but I soon discovered that when he had thought something, then it was settled, while I was doubting all along the line.
Freud's theories on the sex drive were particularly troubling to Jung. While Freud believed that sexual urges were the sole driving force behind human behavior, Jung believed that we are influenced by many other factors, like religious beliefs, the need for approval, and the drive for power.
Freud said, in effect, no, it's sex or nothing. And Jung said, I can't accept this theory wholeheartedly. And this is really what caused the rupture between them.
Desperate to find his way personally and professionally, Jung began a process of deep self-analysis. He spent hours alone recording his thoughts, analyzing his dreams, and making elaborate drawings as a way to express the deepest parts of his unconscious.
Jung used this period to think about what he was going to do with his life. He said to himself, I can't continue to practice psychoanalysis if I use Freud's terms and Freud's methods. I have to create a system of my own.
As he probed deeper and deeper into his own psyche, Jung became increasingly convinced that his unconscious was driven by more than just sexual urges, repressed thoughts, and memories. There was another influential force that Freud had overlooked: the history of civilization. Jung had studied many of the world's cultures and religions, and he observed that even the most dissimilar share common ideas and behavior patterns. He found, for example, that Native American Indians had certain stories and rituals in common with tribes in Africa and other cultures throughout the world.
And he said, these things are in common. And these people don't know anything about each other. They have no way to communicate with each other. How is it, why is it, that they are all telling a very similar, if not the exact same, version of this same story?
Jung concluded that the unconscious is influenced not only by our own experiences, but by the collective experiences of all people. These common ideas are passed down through history, religion, and culture. He called this wealth of inherited knowledge the collective unconscious. It is this collective unconscious that leads human beings around the world to adopt similar behavior patterns without even realizing it.
Every culture has certain classical, typical behavior modalities, like the hero. You can go from east to west, north to south. You can recognize a hero. You can recognize a soldier. You can recognize a healer.
For years, Jung himself had played out archetypical roles. He had devoted himself to following in Freud's footsteps, all the while suppressing the inner voice that was telling him to go his own way. After his many years of soul-searching, Carl Jung had found his true self. Carl Jung was ahead of his time in many ways. Today, decades after his death, his once revolutionary theories are now part of the fabric of our culture.
Jung has maintained and increased his popularity because he speaks to the kinds of issues in terms of meaning, in terms of spirituality that people are looking for.
We are a society that values the individual more readily than ever before, and terms like introvert and extrovert are a part of everyone's vocabulary. In this way, Carl Jung himself has become part of our collective unconscious.